Hello, and thanks for listening to the Conscious Diva podcast. I'm Tatiana. In this episode, Reggie Hubbard, founder of Active Peace Yoga, shares his journey of healing and self-discovery after surviving a stroke. Reggie's story is a reminder of yoga's power to restore balance and rebuild from within. In this highly entertaining and inspiring conversation, yes, entertaining, Reggie shares his story of recovery, resilience, and renewal. He reminds us that healing isn't just about getting back to where we were. It's about awakening to who we can become. In this episode, we discuss how the music and artistry of Prince inspires Reggie in entirely new ways, how he founded Active Peace Yoga, and how Reggie's experience and recovery journey with stroke has been a lesson and a blessing. His story is a reminder that even in our most challenging moments, peace is always possible, and that the path to transformation begins within. Reggie also explains that when peace aligns with civic responsibility, it lays the foundation for meaningful and transformative change. And before yoga, Reggie spent decades as a seasoned political strategist working with the Bernie Sanders campaign, serving as congressional liaison for Move On, and holding a variety of high-profile positions in Washington. His journey from political activism to peace activism is a powerful testament to transformation, proof that awareness and compassion can exist at the intersection of inner and outer change. I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you loved listening to it, please write a review and follow me on Instagram at The Conscious Diva. You can also watch this episode on YouTube. Thank you again. And I hope you learned something about the importance of stroke awareness, recovery, and mindful self-care. Well, it's so lovely to chat to you today. And I'm so glad we could finally make this happen.
Absolutely, pleasure to be with you.
I love your Prince logos that you've got there. I know he's an influence for you.
Pretty ubiquitous, yeah.
I mean, I think that's super cool. I was going to ask you about Prince a little bit later, but since you've got, his logos right there front and center, let's start with that.
Art and energy are very intertwined, and I don't know what it was about Purple Rain when I was 10 years old that compelled me to want to see and be around that. I remember as a youngster, parents like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, "Sign of the times," like so, like 13 years old, like asking for sign of the times and those sorts of things. And I remember when Prince passed away in 2016, I was at that point where I was working for Bernie Sanders, and we were doing a convention walkthrough in Philadelphia during the Democratic primary season. And I was like, if this shit is serious, like, I'm really not going to be okay for the rest of the day, And I happened to be dating someone at the time who was from Minneapolis, but our relationship was clearly on the way out because she was like, I don't know how you could be so upset about someone that you never knew. And I was just like, um, I'm gonna hang up this phone real quick, and I'll be back in Colorado in a couple days, and we can talk about this then because what you said there is completely unacceptable. Whatever. Bye. Like, love you, I guess. Bye. Whatever. And when I started teaching, well, I'm the most accidental yoga teacher in the world. I'm the most accidental meditation teacher in the world. Practitioner. If you had told me I'd be practitioner, I'd be like, totally. Teaching the fickle nature of the human experience bores me, you know what I mean? So I never thought I'd be a teacher or those sorts of things. However, when I started to merge my activist practice and my spiritual practice, like all of this artistry started to emerge. And the first class I ever taught publicly as part of my 200-hour yoga teacher training was dedicated to Prince. It was on Prince's birthday, and my yoga teacher Faith Hunter was like, "Reggie, you're teaching on June 7th," and I was like, "June 7th, June 7th." As you want me to teach my first class ever on Prince's birthday? And she was just like, "It's no big deal." I'm like, "Whatever." Like, this is like as loving as one could be. I was kind of like, that ain't no accident, you know what I mean? So anyway, every 200-hour person has their like boring little, "Oh, we're gonna do this, then this, then this." So I had to throw that away and come up with this whole new thing because it's Prince's birthday. And so taught the class, kicked some ass, and as my teaching practice emerged, like Prince days and Prince's birthday was almost like a ritual because the first class I ever taught was on his actual birthday. And so when I launched Active Peace in April 2020, that was height of the pandemic, right? Like everyone and their mama stuck at their house, and I'm like, my response to the pandemic was one of real calm, almost like eerie calm, because that's what the Yoga Sutras and like the Dhammapada, all these things talk about like equanimity, right? So when the joys and sorrows emerge, you're just kind of like, oh, this is happening, as opposed to like all that other stuff. And when the pandemic hit, like I was super peaceful, and I was just like, oh, I guess I gotta make this active. So Active Peace is born. And in April 4th, 2020 was my first public class. I was like, I gotta do something with respect to Prince. So April 21st is when Prince transitioned. And so I held this virtual class on April 21st, 2020. Somehow Prince's nephew came, so President Nelson was in the class, and there were like 110 other people in this class, and it just exploded. And I was just like, so, okay, clearly Prince wants me to teach more or something. And so Prince has been a staple of my teaching practice for you to be wild and free, and who gives a shit what they think, do you. And if they don't like it, they'll be just fine.
Okay, that's awesome. I love it. I also love Prince, and I saw him in concert in, I don't know, in Sydney in like, my God, 1991 maybe?
Oh,
A
those are good
really long
years.
time
Those are
ago.
good years. Yeah.
It was actually the Diamonds and
Batman.
Pearls tour.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Hell yeah.
that was the first time I saw him live, and I just his presence on stage was so incredible, so moving. I actually couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, because back
Hmm.
then you didn't really you'd see people on, MTV Music, right, in video.
Right.
You didn't It wasn't like today where you could go on YouTube or
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Instagram and
Right.
look at videos. It was like you kind of either had to see someone live or
Or
you
it
wait for
didn't
their video to
exist.
come on MTV. And in
Yeah.
Australia, we didn't have a 24-hour MTV channel like you do in America.
No.
And so,
Right.
that it was really rare. So it was a special experience and it was an experience to be in the presence of him and the
Right.
way he would perform and everything. So no, I can totally understand how you have a love and deep respect. Did you, as a side note, did you see that New York Times article? I think it was earlier this year or the end of last year about
Hmm.
the documentary that was made for Netflix that unfortunately it doesn't sound like it's going to
Yeah,
come.
so the funny thing is that the guy who made the documentary I went to college with.
Okay, have you seen it then? Have you been privy to
No,
the
like
screening?
he did a documentary on O.J. Simpson as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
like Ezra's a good dude, and like it sucks that we can't see what he saw.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously the writer of that article saw the
Right.
preview of it, and she wrote a very good in-depth description of the content.
Right.
But anyway, so you let's talk about your good work.
Sure.
Um, Active Peace Yoga. So you just shared a
Mhm.
little bit about that. But leading up to this, you weren't always practicing yoga. You said you were a
Yeah.
practitioner originally. You were a part of Bernie Sanders' campaign,
Yeah.
political space. And so how were you introduced to yoga originally?
So I had a friend or have a friend, like I luckily still have her, who once involved, she's like, Reggie, you're an angry black man, white woman, which was interesting. I mean, I love her to death, and like, this is who she is. She's like, you're an angry black man. You should practice yoga to help you with that. So at that point in my life, I responded like an angry black man. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, mind your business, and was just didn't just kind of dismiss it. And I was like, I ain't no skinny white chick, so why would I do that? You know what I mean? Like, I ain't no skinny white chick, and you call me angry black man, so you know what I mean? Here you
Mhm.
go. And I never thought of it until September, October 2014. I was in the midst of being considered for two really high-powered jobs in the Obama administration. So I was up to be either Deputy Assistant Secretary for International Education or Deputy Chief of Staff for Education, some big ass thing. And so I basically put all my political chips and relationships to get to the top two for those things, made it to the top two for both, didn't get either one. And I was like, God damn. Like, this is the equivalent of asking to marry someone and they're like, no, and run away. So I'm just like, oh man, I gotta leave town. Like, this is not good. So very heartbroken and heartbreaking. However, a year prior, I had begun to do like self-discovery work, meaning like I'd started to interrogate about how my accumulated psychological habits and my dietary habits informed my response to external stimuli,
Mhm.
which was yoga, but I didn't know that, you know what I mean? Like at least the philosophical part, you know what I mean? I conflated, and it's easy to do so because it's pimped that way in the marketplace, right? Like the physical ain't the spiritual and the
100%.
metaphysical.
Yeah.
Like the metaphysical and the spiritual, like I've been in and I grew up in the church. So like to some level, like spirituality is very easy for me because it's been present for me for I would say 47 of my 51 years. But in that 2014 time frame when I didn't get those jobs and I felt like the heartbreak and just like the confusion about what am I supposed to do now? Damn, you know what I mean? I made a vow, and the vow was I'm only going to do things that I've never done before, that are creative and artsy, and lower my blood pressure. And so when my
Did you
homegirl
just
comes
press
up,
the balloon button?
no, it's funny. So I keep forgetting that this camera, I got a new computer, first world problem. And like, if I do this, like, it,
Yeah, it's
you know,
responding. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I know that feature.
and this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I talk a lot with my hands. And
Yeah.
so I didn't know that this was as newfangled as it was when I got it. And I was doing something I did, and I was like, that just happened. All right, cool, whatever. And
So
so,
anyone that's listening and not watching, that Reggie's talking about the emojis that just come up spontaneously from hand gestures.
so the peace sign is balloons, right? So, my friend comes up and asks me, Reggie, you should come practice yoga with me. And I'm like, I've never done this before. I hear it lowers blood pressure, and it's artsy. I'll try it. And so that's how I started.
Did you just
And
say you called it artsy?
yeah, or at least I saw it as artsy, and I've definitely made it artsy, at least in my rendering and interpretation of this ancient wisdom.
Mhm.
And so I fell into the gym, right? Fell into like the cadence of a free membership, or not free, but 30 days, $30, like the thing that many studios do to get you there. In the process of that process, found this gig and moved to Colorado, and I had worked with this company or this nonprofit the year prior and was actually the star of the show basically. So I had one of their highest performing sites. It was an educational site teaching English as a second language to Brazilian students. And when I moved to Denver, that job went from awesome to awful, and in 6 days. So it was super quick. Like
Wow.
insecurity reared its ugly head, and the people for whom I was their star, once I worked with them, their insecurity led them to basically assassinate my character and put me under a level of psychological microaggressions that I, as a black man, wasn't used to, right? So I'm used to microaggressions, but I never hazed a white girl sorority, you know what I mean? And so they were doing mean girl shit to a black dude, right? And so I'm just like, this is, so anyway, I had a choice to make. I was just like, I can not do anything and curse these motherfuckers out and lose this job and be $5,000 in the hole, or this yoga thing that I just started seems to keep me from wanting to smack the shit out of people. So let me figure that out. So I joined this studio in Denver, Colorado named Kindness Yoga. And same deal. Hey, it's a 30-day 30. I had $100 in my pocket. I was like, here, take this. I'm gonna be here a lot. And so essentially was practicing sadhana, right? So sunrise, sunset. I didn't know it was sadhana because I'm like 2 months into this thing. And as the job got worse, my practice got more intense and got more disciplined and got more focused. So much so that the slings and the arrows that they threw at me became like you know, and they fired me via text message 10 months later after like ruthless psychological like bullshit. And instead of me cursing them out, which would have been quote unquote well within my right to do so, like you lured me here. It was a bait and switch. You basically tried to levy all these accusations against my character. I still overperformed and kicked ass, and you didn't say thank you because you're white and insecure. This is boring. I didn't say none of that. I was just like, I want to thank y'all. And they asked me for an exit interview, which was hella tacky, but whatever. That's what these people were doing. And I was like, with respect, exit interview? Nah, you can't be serious. And I was like, no, thank you. I was like, but I do want to thank you. And they're like, for what? Because they were clueless. And then that's when the wisdom bomb came. It was like, I want to thank you for how poorly you treated me because you gave me access to this wisdom practice that transformed my life. So your horrific nature allowed me to find my divine nature. Peace be with you. And then I called my mom and my aunt afterwards, and I was like, this yoga shit, like, how in the world do I want to go from choking and cursing these people out and 10 months later being like, thank you for the wisdom to, you know, what? Like, this is crazy. So, like, once I had that experience, I was just like, I'm all in on this, right? So it was the physical. I had already made, I'm an existential philosophy major from Yale, so I'm a deep thinker. And I've been a deep thinker for most of my life, especially in this meat suit in this country, right? So, like, to be black and intelligent is to be one step away from rage. And so, like, I had to figure out a way to, like, be manipulative with my rage. And then when I found yoga and what it did, like the disciplined practice of compassion and physical and metaphysical, and shit comes up, and you're like, hi, is this true anymore? Yes, keep it. No, goodbye. Right? Like that thing, svadhyaya, like that disciplined approach to interrogating your own experience, I was like, I'm hooked. And so I started practicing for real, for real. Bernie Sanders' campaign was next for me. And I had worked in presidential politics off and on since 2003, and it almost killed me. So, with yoga in hand, I joined the Bernie Sanders campaign and was just like, let's see if we can attack some of these demons.
Yeah, with a
Right.
totally new approach.
Yeah, right. So, how can I go into the thing that almost killed me with discipline and commitment, sankalpa? Like, how can I take all of these things, look this thing in the face, and kind of be like, all right. And the Bernie Sanders campaign, people used to call me Svengali because I would just walk in, it would be swirling, and I would just be like, this goes here, this goes here. So I was so focused and clear. I would be in meetings that were just taking too long, and I was like, with respect, you're talking way too much. I gotta go meditate. So you need to make this quick. So I would say that to folks, and oh, yeah, like you said the same thing 10 times, and we wasted 10 minutes, and like I got a lot of stress on my plate, so I need to deal with that. So like either with this meeting ends, it continues without me here, or it ends right now.
I love that. I love that you just stepped into your power and
Right.
claimed it
Yeah,
and did
I got
that.
your
And
tongue. I said what I said, whatever. You know what I mean? And then people would like want to work with me because even in that chaos, like I was just kind of like, and
mm,
that's like a year and a half into discipline practice, right? So you can imagine that I haven't stopped the discipline and life has continued to life.
and
And
it's
then
been like
I've just
what,
been
10
able
years
to
now?
just,
More than 10 years, yeah?
it will be 11.
Okay. If I may, I just want to interrupt you for one sec.
Yeah, please, please.
I mean, everything you've just said very, very quickly, and a lot of it, there is so true for the yogic experience, right? And even just that example you just gave, not just claiming stepping into your power, but the fact that others could experience that with you and
Hmm.
saw that shift is huge, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's amazing to be able to, from a place of still calm, inner stillness,
right.
be able to just say, I need to go and do this. This is what's happening. And then everyone else go, whoa, what are you doing that's actually keeping you in this state of equanimity? Like, how can you do this?
Hmm.
Oh. So just like if your experience, I want to talk about your stroke experience in a moment
Sure.
because that if you have your inner world has clearly shifted, right? And
Yeah.
it's only been a year or a year and a half.
Year and a
So
half, yeah.
how quickly, what happened? What was going on for that experience? Because and I'll talk to you about a little stroke a little bit more in depth after that.
Yeah, so Tatiana, thank you for the question. Stroke is my deepest teacher. Like, stroke has been the thing that showed me the depth of mindfulness. Like, stroke has shown me the power of intention. Like stroke has shown me the mind, the power of the mind. So April 1st, 2014, me and my girlfriend are headed to a wedding in Georgia, and we stop at a random hotel I picked on hotels.com in South Carolina. By God's grace and the grace of the ancestors, sages, and the saints, that hospital, I mean, that hotel was 4 miles away from the second best neurological trauma center in South Carolina. So in the American South, like if you
God,
in
I just
certain
got
places,
goosebumps actually when you said that. Wow.
right, ain't no, like there's some places in the South where ain't no hospitals, man. So like we could have stayed in like an Airbnb, whatever, you know what I mean? So I
There was
picked
some
this
divine intervening that got you
child.
to choose that place.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So I wake up in the middle of the night to go use the restroom because at that point I was in my late 40s and body changes. Sometimes you use the bathroom in the middle of the night, right? Go to the restroom and come
We're
out
the
and then
same age, by the way. I'm also 51, so I know.
right on. Well, you know what it is. Things be change and you're like, oh, this is a feature. Okay. Like,
Yeah,
this is,
also not being able to see.
yeah, right. You know, it's like, all right. So I come out of the bathroom and then the next thing I know, I'm in the floor. And I'm like, did I get hit? Like, okay. And then I try and move my leg, nothing. And I was like, hmm, I'm having a motherfucking stroke right now.
Wow, so you knew immediately. Were you just knew because you'd had access, you'd read about stroke
Read
symptoms?
about it, family history. Grandfather had a stroke,
Okay.
uncle had a stroke, grandfather had a stroke at 91 and passed. My uncle had a stroke at 72 and passed. Had stroke in my family, and I was just like, God damn, I'm the one for my generation. Fuck. You know what I mean? And so like I'm there and my girlfriend's asleep and had somehow had the presence of mind to awaken her without distressing her. Right? So I'm just
Wait, I
like,
just want to ask you about that. Were you on the floor still? You
yeah.
were, because there's varying degrees of having a stroke. So you had
Yeah.
collapsed on the floor, but you were able to get move your body enough to wake her up.
I was able to talk,
Okay.
awaken her. At this point, I still couldn't move my leg.
Okay.
And then I was just like, I remember saying to her, is my speech slurring? And she's like, what? I'm like, focus. Like, is my speech slurring? I need to know, you know? And she was just like, no, you're fine. I was like, we gotta go. And she's like, what's the matter? I was like, my leg's not working, you know? And by God's grace, somehow the trigger came back on. And like, I stand up. I'm huge, right? You know what I mean? And so I'm like, this thing is working again. We gotta go. And so before I left, though, this is also quite instructive for my life. Before I left, I sat like with one of these sound bowls, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm about to go into a storm.
Mm, wow.
I'm in some shit." And so I would just be like for about 30 seconds to kind of resource for what I was walking into.
And it's actually amazing that you had the awareness, you knew what you were about to move into, and that you were able to regain movement, access to your
Right.
body, right? And that she totally believed you, didn't try to be
Right.
like,
No,
hey,
no,
you're
for
not, what's
sure. For
going on?
sure.
Let's go.
And yeah, absolutely, for sure. So we walk out of the hotel. I walk into the emergency room and go through intake and all these other things. Then it got bad quick, right? It got bad super quick, right? So leg starts to just go and blood pressure spikes. Like my blood pressure spiked to like 265 over like 190, like some huge number.
Wow.
And I am conscious the entire time somehow. And I'll never forget this. The look on the doctor's eyes, the emergency room doctor who sees death all the time. Like he's like looking
Wow.
at me. And I was just kind of like, all right, Yogi, like some shit is going down, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's time to summon, pray, something, you know what I mean? And somehow at that point, the clot broke and they didn't have to use the clot busting thing.
Wow. Okay, so you were having an ischemic stroke then? You had
Yeah,
a blocked carotid artery in your neck,
yeah.
and
This
and
gimmick,
so
yeah.
that's what was you were experiencing it in real time in front of them, and which was
Yep.
incredible to be in that environment. And had they believed you when you came in, when you were like, I'm pretty sure I had a stroke like an hour ago, you know?
Yeah, they were pretty good,
Okay.
actually. Pretty good, pretty attentive. At that point, like I said, they didn't have to bust the clot. The clot broke on its own. However, at that point, like damage was done. And the collateral damage ended up being I could not move my left leg, I could not move my left foot, and I looked like I'd been in a fight.
Hmm.
And the doctor then comes in and is like, Mr. Hubbard, there's zero chance of you leaving the hospital today, maybe until the end of the week. And so that was the confirmation of what I already knew.
Okay.
Right. So then the next, oh, they wheel me out of ER, take me to like step down critical care, and I pass out. Right. Wake up at some point,
Yeah.
all the things. And neurologist comes in and is like, Mr. Hubbard, you've had a stroke. Like,
Mhm.
thanks, doc. And then they start throwing all these terms, ischemic and right parietal lobe and all these other things. My girlfriend's there taking notes because she's a lawyer, but also she was there to hold me down. And so as he's saying all this stuff, yet again, I was like, could you reach over and get that bowl? So he's saying all this stuff to me, and I'm like, okay, hypertension. That's blood pressure, right? Got it. Pre-diabetic, diabetic? Fuck. Okay. Neurological devastation. Cool. You know what I mean? So I'm playing as he's saying all this stuff because I know and knew from my spiritual practice that I needed space, right? Like I need the space to like this stuff is unavoidable. Like I'm hundreds of miles away from home, can't walk and almost died. So like I need space to process all that. So luckily for me, I had sound and would play sound and meditate in such deep ways and adopted the frame early on. How is this happening for me as opposed to why is this happening to me? And even the neurologists at the end, because like I was supposed to be in critical care step down for like 9 days, I was there for 4. Like I was supposed to be in rehab for 11 days. I was there for 4. And like the neurologists were just like, we see a lot of strokes and, what is it about what you're doing? I was like, doc, I don't understand the brain like you do, but I do understand the mind. And I needed to rest my mind so the brain could heal. And so all of these things I'm doing are for the benefit of what I understand to be the maintenance of my nervous system. And I had a nervous system injury. And so my chi is off. And so like I've got to do all I can to bring it back into balance. And so in the absence of walking, which I'm paralyzed now, like I have to shift the subtle energy and sound is what I know to do that. And so for these doctors who are super busy to take time out of their schedule to want to interrogate me about how my recovery is different from the hundreds of other cases they see, showed me that I was doing something right and or, it's the awareness, right? And so it's that deep presence of yoga that I know saved my life because like I hit the floor and I'm just like, this is a stroke. Like this is what's happening right now. And how can I, consciously aware of this very serious situation, how can I move from a place of peace and equanimity so that my precious resource of attention and energy can be used to make sure that I find safety and good care? So even as I recount this with you now, the fact that that's what I was thinking, like
It's
as
amazing.
like what, like
No, it's
so
amazing. That's the power of your connection, right? To your truth and trusting this guidance that's coming through you. It's I think there's actually not a lot of not a lot and not enough awareness around what happens when a person experiences a stroke. It's a brain attack. You know,
Yeah,
we know a lot
totally.
about heart attacks, but it's a brain attack, and you just
Absolutely.
and that then of course affects the nervous system, but it also affects our speech. You can have global aphasia or varying degrees of aphasia, which then of
Mhm.
course is when a
You can't
person,
communicate.
anyone who's been with somebody who's had a loved one or even themselves who's had a stroke and needed to get to a hospital, that time is really precious, is critical. How many hours you get to the hospital
I was there.
the
I was
moment
there in
you have,
25 minutes.
I mean, you were there already, right? You had your second stroke, the second, because you had the first one back. Maybe you had a
Yeah.
TIA and didn't even realize it
Right.
6 months earlier, right? And that's, as you know, a transient immune
Right.
attack, right? That's a mini stroke. So maybe you'd had that, didn't realize because of other experiences that you were having in your body. But to then be in this place of safety, you were so fortunate that you could just get all of that. But there's so many people who don't regain their speech, and if they
Yep.
do, it's not the same. Not the processing faculties aren't there because of whatever level of aphasia they're experiencing. Maybe they can't write. Maybe they can't read letters. Maybe they can't read numbers. It's just
Right.
varying
Right.
with different people. And I know an amount about strokes because my father had one 12 years ago. He recently passed away as a result of his stroke that he had so many years ago. But he
Hmm.
is on an airplane flying from
Oh
Vancouver
shit.
to Shanghai, China. So the plane did an emergency landing in Japan. He was in the stroke care unit. He missed that window. It well over exceeded the hours of intervention with the carotid, the anti clotting meds in
Yep.
the neck, and it was crazy. So he was actually in the stroke care unit in Japan, and then he lost complete use of his body. He became incredibly paralyzed, and that affected it. Or he also suffered global aphasia, so he only regained six, maybe seven words, but then a lot of other complications as a result. But
Hmm.
prior to the stroke, he was this incredibly healthy looking man, picture of health, ran 5 miles every day, did 100 push-ups, really took pride in the way he looked. But he was incredibly stressed. He was hiding a lot of things. And I feel like this is another aspect that's not spoken about. The irony was he was used to be a huge meditator. I learned TM when I was 13, 14 years old because he was so into transcendental meditation. We lived in Asia. I was exposed to all kinds of Eastern
Hmm.
practices and philosophies and yoga at a really young age.
Hmm.
And at some point, he just stopped his practices. And I don't know what happened, why, but I could see and reflect back on and see how his body was so under literally fire that agni that builds up and makes the blood sticky in our bodies and everything calcifies. And so this
Yep.
is a huge trigger when one is really experiencing that. So the fact that you had figured all of this out through your own experiences with just anger and rage, but then understanding, and you must be able to feel the difference within yourself. You probably don't have that literally that. There's a reason that sort of saying, and air quotes, your blood is boiling, right? That's a feeling,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a legit thing, right? Like when you're angry, like that
Yeah.
is a legit rage that we feel it comes up and your skin changes color and you're like, ah,
Yeah.
ah.
Your pupils dilate.
And throw it at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your pupils dilate. Like you get flushed in the arms. Like you gain. Like it's. Like it's.
Yeah. The
Yeah. I'm
whole,
about to fuck this up. Yeah. Like it's this thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how, so
to
what
that
is
end,
it?
I have a quick story. So, in the States, we have an unfortunate political circumstance yet again. And I was intimately involved in the first resistance. So, I worked at Move On, and I was Move On's DC chief during the first resistance. So, led strategy on the first impeachment, led mass protests, all these other things. I could not do anything in our presidential election last year because I was in stroke recovery. Oh God. Oh. Like I had been intimately involved in all the presidential whatever. And so in this one I can't do anything but watch and pray. Holy shit. And so that was tough. However, I was practicing, like I'm learning how to walk again, like I'm learning release, I'm learning all these, and I have all these gongs here. It was funny because I was kind of pissed when I got sick. I was just like, yo, like, this is a lot. This is heavy stuff for someone who can't walk. Like this is a lot. But once mobility started to come back and I could get here, oh man, I just played gongs for hours.
Wow. Wow.
and would just play and allow that connection to spaciousness and consciousness to dissolve the shitty news that I was getting from the doctor. You know what I mean? Or the shitty news of all the campaign stuff. So, Reggie, we don't know if you'll ever walk again. Okay. Thanks, Doc. Then I would hustle back here safely and just be like, oh
Mm.
man, cry, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And then once I would be present with the emotions that were there, like if you understand sound, like sound is the direct connection to silence, which is the direct connection to source.
Yes, the sound of Om. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So once I cleared the deck of all of the, for lack of better terminology, detritus, so dead stuff that ain't helpful, like
The
I would
shit.
be right in this meditative spot of what would walking again look like?
Mm.
What would walking again feel like? And this is still with like a dead foot. And I would imagine in my right foot moving and then imagine it happening in the left. And I did that for months. And one day, because of all this practice, the left foot moved like this after being asleep for like 4 months. And I'm convinced that it's because of this stuff. I never lost hope, number one, but number two, I had to create a space for me to believe the impossible was possible. So, say all that to say, when the electoral result happened as it did in the United States in November, because I refuse to speak certain names, I will not waste my words. I was pissed. I was pissed. And it was there. And then I was just like, okay, your neurology is 5 months old. So you cannot accommodate this anger.
Mm.
You can't, right? It is very real and present. So it was almost like part Koshik study, but also just the understanding of energy. I was like, it's just energy. So rather than channel it towards rage, can you put it towards music?
Mm.
Can you put it towards curriculum? Like, can you put it towards harnessing the wisdom of the merger of your impeccable political credentials and this miraculous stroke shit that you're going through? Like, how can you harness your wisdom and your blessing of your experience to be of service to other people? And so that allowed me to create like something called resilience training and resistance training. And now we did this in November and December, January, and February to get, and we had like 110 people like
Is that a
engaged.
part of Active Peace Yoga on your
Mhm,
website? Okay, good.
mhm. So to get people engaged, because I was just like, y'all, listen, everyone and their mom is freaking out, but I've been through this before. And not only have I been through this before, I went through it as I was training in yoga and meditation. So here are ways that you can take this horrific energy that's coming, alchemize it, and still kick ass. And so, like, not in a productive sense, but in a spiritually transformative, alchemical sense. And people didn't like I still have the sangha still remains, so I convene the sangha once a quarter, and they were just like, it's like you were an oracle or a prophet. I was like, I'm not. Like, I'm just like telling you what the wisdom tells me,
Yeah.
right? And so these dark times that you perceive as dark can be the precipice of your renaissance.
Mm.
Trust me. Like my stroke, like for 4 months was nothing but bullshit. But I held space and held hope and dug through the muck to find the lotus.
Yeah, that is super powerful. And it's I
Yeah,
love that you're teaching this to empower people. And because it's not just the individual who might be experiencing it, but the people in their lives as
yeah,
well. You can do it as a collective.
totally, totally,
And there's so much more power in the healing for everybody because no one's
totally,
blaming and pointing fingers and taking it out on each other. It's they're actually able to, as you said, hold space, right? You
totally.
not only you were holding space for yourself, but for the collective.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say quickly to that is that I'm gonna reboot the course because we're now almost a year into this, and it's not even about customer success stories. Like people know this works. And, I've had people tell me, I really am out of practice with my resilience. And I was like, good enough, like good thing is that I'm not. And so, and I'm a teacher. So like, I'm going to bring that course back because it's not just about political stuff, right? Because I believe to my soul that the problems that America and the world to some extent, but the United States has, they are spiritual problems that have political manifestations, right? So people who cherish violence and their way or the highway, they lack compassion. Those who cannot look violence in the face and being like, they lack courage, right? They're all of these different spiritual attributes that people have in deficit that are manifesting as political problems that if we practice in community again and again and again, the resilience of the individual and the collective can make for a healing situation.
And so a lot of that philosophy, I'm assuming you're taking from yogic literature, like the eight limbs, the yogic path, but you don't have to necessarily be speaking or understand. You don't have to be using yogic terminology to
No, no, right. Yeah,
practice,
right.
right?
No,
Like are you familiar with Lama Rod Owens? He's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's my
he's a great
buddy. It's
spirit.
my
Oh,
homeboy.
amazing. He's such a great spiritual teacher. I had him on my podcast as well.
We're good friends.
And we really talked about how, the struggle is real. Like this is
Yeah,
actually people choose the struggle and they don't even realize that they're choosing the struggle.
right,
And then they
right.
are acting out because of that struggle, making it
Totally.
real. Hey, I'm like, it's not a meme, people. It's actually a
Yeah,
fact, right?
yeah.
But so just talk about a little bit how you're applying the yogic philosophy and sharing that with your
Mhm.
community and that people really don't even have to know these names or terms or even who Patanjali is or any of this.
Right, right. So one of my favorite yogic concepts is Pratipakshibhavana, right? So to the second something negative is happening, like think of something positive and or create the space to welcome the positive in addition to the negative, right? So we tend to have binary thinking when the capacity of the enlightened mind is to hold space for all. So when I talk about the layman's terminology of Pratipakshibhavana, I was just like, so the next time you are triggered by a newscast, rather than think about the fear that it incites in you, think about how you can use that awakening to build your community, right? Or create community. Or you say, hi, fear, how are you doing? I'm going to also welcome and courage in speaking truth to fear, right? So, like, I talk about it like that. They don't need to know that that's like 2.33. Like, they don't need to know all of that. And
Yeah.
because you know how Yoga Land can be. They can be
Yeah.
like, well, in the citrus of Pata, like,
I
nah,
know.
like
I know. It just gets too much. And I know. I'm like, really?
just
I do
stop
know.
it, stop it,
I'm like,
right?
oh no, okay. Don't come and adjust my body.
Yeah, seriously, just like so. I was taught that the deep study is my job. And if I can take the deep study and make it applicable, that's the teacher,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
you
Because
know?
wisdom is a thread, right?
Yeah.
And you can absolutely weave. You can weave beautiful stories. You can share experiences, and bringing your own health experience into all of this and comparing that analogy, like
Girl,
that's
yeah.
incredible, right? Like that, like it sounds trite to say, oh, what a gift, because it
No, for
really
sure.
takes
No,
a
it totally is.
powerful
I mean,
person to recognize those gifts and a person who can really step into that and instead of going, oh, as you said earlier, why me? Like being the victim,
yeah.
but using that as power and making critical changes. So
Well,
what?
I had to be honest, you know what I mean? Like, I had terrible eating habits. Like, I had allowed grief to subsume the capacity I had for taking care of myself. I lost the equivalent of my brother in a very sudden fashion in 2021. And so I worked too much and kind of let things slide. And in addition to family history and poor choices, yeah, I mean, it happened, right? So the thing I've done, and we Lama Rod and actually, we had a beautiful conversation at Kripalu this spring
Mm.
because he was like, Reggie, you don't know that you saved my life, and I was just like, okay, so we're in front of like 200 people, so before you make me
Wow.
cry, you gotta give me some notice, man. But he was like, you being so raw and honest about your stroke forced me to go get my blood pressure taken.
Mm.
So the delusion of I'll get to it, because you got on Instagram with your crutches talking about take your ass to the doctor. This is not a fucking game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he and I are about the same size. He was like, we're the same size, we're the same age. And like, I was like, and you don't want none of this, baby.
Mm.
You don't, right? So I'm glad. And so I was like, to know that my suffering created an opportunity for your liberation is like the biggest gift.
Wow. Wow. And that's beautiful. Yeah, that he can share that and also
Yeah,
to do it together, because that's
that was
also
so
creating
beautiful.
awareness. Like listen to the stories that we're telling you.
Right.
What can people do? I mean, you have your website,
Yeah.
you have a lot of advocacy work that you're involved with. How
Right.
can listeners or just the general public get involved? What can people do? They can sign up for classes with you, follow you on Instagram. Like, what are all the things that you've got going on?
Yeah, so I'm O Reggie Global, OReggieGlobal on Instagram. I hate social media, but I'm awesome at it. And
Good for you. I'm not.
yeah, I'm awesome at it. And I have taken vows of inspiration, truth telling, and information sharing. Like, so I talk a lot, I talk about the stroke. I talk about these things. And one of the blessings that I've heard recently is someone's just like, your ability to talk honestly about the things that people hide from. It's like you're the ambassador of sorrow. Like you hold these truths that people avoid here. And I was like, listen, here's the thing, and I'm grateful for the stroke for this. Like, I'm not afraid of the dark. You can't talk love and light if you're scared of the dark.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally.
You can't.
Mhm.
And so, Oh Reggie Global is a good place to find me. Active Peace Yoga. If you look up Active Peace Yoga anywhere, like I'm easy to find. And I'm starting to teach more, meaning communities of practice are the only thing that allow for endurable social change. So whether they be virtual or in person, I'm starting to convene practice groups for Dharma, but also for sound,
Mm.
because like resting your nervous system in community is spiritual and alchemical. So creating these various groups so that we can come together, rest together, lift together, rise together is
Actually,
what I'm
quickly
about.
on that point of rest, just talk about the importance of Shavasana.
Yeah. So here's what I know about my spiritual practice. Like, I guess I wasn't doing enough Shavasana. So the sages and the saints and the ancestors was like, sit your ass
They were
down.
like, okay, here we go. We're going to make you
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah. And you won't be able to walk.
Interesting. So for people, Shavasana is corpse pose, right? The what you do at
Yeah.
the end of a traditional asana practice, right? Which
Right.
most people lay there on the mat going in their heads, oh, I need to get back to work. Oh, I need to
Right.
go quickly get up. No, I can't lay here for 10 or 15 minutes. I gotta go.
Right.
Let me leave.
The integration, and I'm grateful for the life Shavasana that I had because it allowed me to integrate the wisdom of the experience I had to shed old habits, old mental habits and mental patterns. And from that corpse pose, from that corpse season, I've been able to emerge magical and mystical and beautiful. But it didn't happen until I rested.
Yeah, I love that. Is that when you're doing your sound, are they sound baths that you're doing? Are they live or are they over online?
Both,
Okay.
right? So the thing is, and I'll even, I mean, I got this stuff here. I'll play for you a little bit because
Yeah.
it'll definitely translate. So I had a jazz icon come to one of my retreats. This gentleman, Jack DeJohnette, he played on Bitches Brew with Miles Davis. So like he came to one of my retreats and was just like, brother, I saw a picture of you in front of your gongs. And I was like, this motherfucker's on some shit. So to be called motherfucker by someone who played with Miles Davis and John Coltrane and whatever, I was just like, oh
Yeah.
shit. So I have a jazz background, but also I understand spiritual stuff. And so like when I play, the essence of being present and
Mm,
free.
mm,
So sound is not music. Sound is meant to unlock what you have in your mind, but also in your body. Like there is a sonic intelligence that the body has that we know
mhm,
nothing about.
mhm.
And we typically condition ourselves with noise. And noise begets cortisol, begets like a shrinking of the body, begets like a unintentional suffocation of the human apparatus. However, when I play this bowl, goes directly to the center of your head and clears all of it. And if one wasn't enough, try another. So my online stuff sounds this good because I've invested in these microphones, right?
Yeah, I know you have to get that right.
I used to be a sound roadie, so like I can't like have crap microphones. Like I can't have a crap setup. So live and in person, I'll play sound bowls or chimes or let me
Yeah, I'd love to hear you do it. Well, look at your setup. That's amazing. That actually looks like a store that like in Nepal with all your gongs, all your singing bowls on the floor in
right.
different sizes. Yeah.
It is kind of this in the middle of nowhere, Maryland. So what I'll do, I actually have this set up for happy birthday because my birthday was on Sunday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'll do a little happy birthday riff. I played on Sunday, which was my actual birthday. A hour and a half long set with this as the hook. So
Mm. Mm. Beautiful.
yeah, so I play with those vibes a lot.
Beautiful.
And I now know, like I said, through my stroke recovery, that when I sit in low light with that and play and pray, I had an indigenous elder tell me one time, they were like, when I hear you play, it's like you're praying to all the deities in the dimensions.
Mm.
So please incorporate that in your playing. I'm like, what? Huh? But like once they said that, I was like, well, if you hear that, you're in tune with some stuff. And so, all right.
No, it's beautiful. For me, just now, I can receive that within my entire being, in my body, my nervous system, and I feel it in my chest. Like it enters my body that way, and it's such a peaceful, harmonizing experience. It's beautiful. It's like sitting in the last night. It was the full moon, the Aries, the harvest
Yeah.
moon, and I have a bathroom with the moon comes around that side, and the
Oh,
and the
fun.
bathtub there, and it's a copper tub. So I laid in the dark last night with the moon coming in, and just it's like
That
that.
sounds
It's that
delightful.
the same. It's the same experience for me because it's like I'm receiving that healing light with an intention built into it. I did a fire ceremony before that first,
Hmm.
roll some things and then did that. But yeah, it's profound. These are profound healing tools, and we have them for a reason, and they're ancient and they've been around for such a long time that,
Right.
and it's wonderful that we in the West have access to them and are learning and are being led to use them because they just to share these and to be able to use them on ourselves. It's such a gift. So I love that you found that they found you, that they came,
Yeah,
that
they
they,
found
yeah.
me, and it's like ancient wisdom meets like jazzy Prince,
Yeah. So
like
cool, huh?
Jimmy. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, so anything else you want to share? Because that was really amazing. Thank you very much. I'd love to go like sign online and come do one of your sound baths online.
Yeah, more than welcome. I mean, nah, I'm just grateful for the chance to talk to you and your crew and just blessing on your day.
Cool. And okay, stroke awareness. Is there something quickly that you're associated with that people can go to?
Yeah,
You
Stroke
recommend?
Onward is a group I do a lot of work with. Stroke Onward is building communities of support for stroke survivors, but also shout out to all caregivers because the stroke community is bigger than the person that had the stroke. Like people who depended upon or were connected to the individual who is experiencing something they never thought they would deal with, right? The family also never thought they would deal with any of this stuff, right? So, Stroke Onward is creating communities of care where there are the amplification of success stories like mine. I mean, the one thing that I don't feel guilty about it, but my recovery is miraculous.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know.
No, right? But it
Hmm?
was bad, right? But not everybody has this recovery, right? And so I'm careful when I talk about it to say, hey, I happen to have the awareness and the proximity, but also the agency and divine favor, right? So like those four things it could have been disastrous, right? And it has become something that was just like mildly harmful, right? So, but Stroke Onward is creating community care groups for caregivers and survivors because, and you know this from your experience, likely everyone pays attention for the first year, but after that, you still got the stroke and no one gives a shit. And so, like, creating communities who are going through that silent wait because no one needs to bear that burden alone. So, Stroke Onward is the stroke advocacy group that I do a lot of work with.
I love that. I love that. Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, it was great to chat to you. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful wisdom. I love it. So heartfelt. Thank you.
And thank you for your resilience for this opportunity. And I hope you have the best day ever.
Thank you. You too.
Peace.